Today on Dusty Vision Radio, we are going to discuss a film that had a huge impact, not just on the country, but on the world. A lot of people would say it was a negative impact, but it is a classic, no doubt. We're going to discuss the 1988 film Colors.
Colors does for the inner city cop what Platoon did for the foot soldier in Vietnam. Dennis Hopper is a genius, says Michael Medved of Sneak Previews. A revelation, says Gene Siskel. 2 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert. Urgent, honorable, you can't take your eyes off it. David Anson, Newsweek. Sean Penn. Robert Duvall. A Dennis Hopper film. Colors, rated R.
I remember like it was yesterday. I was 10 years old. And I remember hearing the hype about this movie, Colors, that was coming out, that was going to tell the real story about what's going on in the streets. It was a phenomenon. And it spread, some would say like cancer, all throughout the country. Now let's talk about what was going on in Los Angeles before the movie Colors came out. 1988. Los Angeles was a war zone. And when I say war zone, I mean it was a war zone. Los Angeles was a battleground. Even for a civilian such as myself, we had to walk a certain way. We had to talk a certain way. We had to go a certain route to and from school. I remember my mom telling me to walk down certain streets when I was living in East Side Long Beach because she would have to go to work. So I would have to walk back and forth to school. And she said, hey, go down this street, go down this street, go down this. Don't go down that street because a lot of stuff goes down that street. And I didn't understand until later that that's where the blue team hung out. Right there on 21st and Long Beach Boulevard, Elm Avenue. Anyone from Long Beach knows the area. So it was a different time where you had to teach your kids how to be street smart. Of course, me being a kid who didn't listen too well at times, I decided one day to go down that street that my mom told me not to go down. And it reminded me, you guys have seen Boys in the Hood when a young Trey was walking home from school. There's people shooting dice. Right? They get into a little squabble. And it was a lot of chaos, but I remember it like it was yesterday. The CRlPS looked 7 feet tall to me, a little 9-10-year-old. I remember like they looked like giants, and I remember the blue rags. I remember it very, very vividly. But Los Angeles as a whole, in the 80s, was going through it. Crack had just entered the scene, maybe 3-4 years before this movie came out. The cops weren't playing because they knew what they were up against. More money, more crack meant bigger weapons. So instead of the old 22s that the police were used to seeing when they would pull someone over, or the 38s, the 38 specials, now they're seeing Uzis and Mac 10s. And no, these are not just names of rappers. These are real guns that people were rocking back in the day. It was definitely a different time. LAPD was not playing. They had this thing called the Batterram. A Batterram. Come to my place. Shout out to Toddy T. Shout out to Mixmaster Spade. But the Batterram was a real thing. It was a big old van, a big old truck with a big block thing on the front, a big ramming thing, and they would just bust through people's houses, man. Alleged crack houses. And boom, and just tearing up shop. because these crack houses were so elaborate that by the time the police would get into them, they have all the drugs stashed away, or they flush them down the toilet, or, you know, stuff like that. So now the cops are like, okay, we're going to build this big ass thing. We're just going to bust through the side of your shit and rush in. And they sure did. They sure did. Sometime they went into the wrong home. Oops, sorry. My bad. I meant to go to oh, this is 336. Sorry. We meant to go to 338. Ooh, no! So they got rid of the Batterram pretty quick because they made that mistake several times.
The Batterram rolled the streets of Los Angeles and terrorized the neighborhoods like it's nobody's business. The Batterram was a tank that they created in Daryl Gates, the chief of police for the LAPD. He created a tank because during the crack era, people learned how to fortify their houses. I mean, it would take forever for them cops to break into a crack house because they had the gate, they had the bars on the doors, they had the doors double reinforced. You had double bar doors, and sometimes you may have double windows. And because one, you had to keep the robbers out and the police. And the crack cocaine does not flush or dissolve in water like powder cocaine. So you need some time to dispose of that shit before the cops get there. And they most of the time when they would finally get into the house of the crack house, the cocaine would be gone. So they found a way to just tear them all down, just come to the wall. So they put a big ass metal plate on the barrel of a tank, a metal plate on the barrel of a tank, and they would just pull that something around the side of your house and come through like a lowrider and just come right through the living room. But the problem with that was a lot of times they'd go to the wrong houses, or sometimes they would smash down the door of a bedroom and kill people. Okay, they'd hurt kids and shit like that. So it just became a nuisance. And most of the time they carried the damn thing on a tank. So people started coming, they had to take it off the trailer, and they saw it coming. Hey man, the battery on the way to your house, dude. So anybody that was selling dope, you still got a heads up.
Oh yeah. So
it just became kind of useless after a while. Then they found out a way how to actually get them doors off a lot faster, and using crackheads to, it became a whole cat and mouse game. But the Batterram had us run. Toddy T made a record about it, made a hit record about it, and shortly after that, I think it was ACLU found it to be unconstitutional.
Yeah,
but it's still around. My boy Matt McDaniels, he took some pictures of it down at the police museum. It's still around. It still exists.
But it was going down, and the ones contributing, the ones profiting off of this new white rock that was flooding the street were the C's and the B's. And that made them protect their territories a lot more. That made them, because territory equals money. The more territory you give up, the more money you're giving up. So it was legit a war zone. And anyone who survived the 80s, whoo, man, anyone who survived the 80s, especially as a kid, I commend you. We're a different type of warrior, even the civilians like myself.